Hello YouTube. Today I want to share Udemy question set AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Practice Exam. So the first question is, a solution architect need to set up a Bastion host in the cheapest, most secure way. The architect should be the only person that can access it via SSH. So which of the following step would satisfy the requirement? The options are: set up a small EC2 instance and security group that only allow access on port 22 via your IP address. Second option: set up a large EC2 instance and a security group that only allow access on port 22. Third option: set up a small EC2 instance and a security group that only allow access on 22 port. And fourth option is set up a large EC2 instance and a security group that only allow access on port 22 via your IP address. So between those four options, first of all, to create a single Bastion host, we need a small EC2 instance, because the purpose of the Bastion host is routing the traffic from outside internet to our private EC2 private VPC. So for in this case, we can use small EC2 instance, and we can only allow only my IP address or specific one IP address on port 22, that is SSH port. So the first option is only the relevant option in the cheapest cost, right? So in description it is given the Bastion host. What is Bastion host? So in Bastion host, a Bastion host is a server whose purpose is to provide access to a private network from a external network such as the internet. Because of its exposure to potentially attack, a Bastion host must be minimize the chance of penetration. So from outside, like client can access the Bastion host, and it would be in the public subnet, and only these public subnet servers are allowed to connect the private subnet server. In private server we may have database servers. Here it is mentioned the EMR servers, clusters, as it is. So these servers are only accessible from Bastion host. To access these servers, we have to log in from outside world to Bastion host server. After the login the Bastion host server, we can access the private subnet, right? It is giving that description as it is in clear and straightforward. I'm not going to the further description. Okay, question number 2. A startup has resource deployed on the AWS cloud. It is now going through a set of schedule audits by an external auditors firm from compliance. Which of the following services available in AWS can be utilized to help ensure the right information are present for auditing purpose? So for auditing purpose, which service can give the maximum information? Here is the option is Amazon CloudWatch service, AWS CloudTrail service, Amazon EC2 service, and Amazon VPC. So in those services, CloudWatch is used for monitoring purpose. CloudTrail is used to scheduling the visualizing the log. It stores the logs of the all API calls of AWS. This may be the SDK call, this may be the console log or CLI log. So CloudTrail is the only option. Other options are EC2, it's for computing, and VPC, it is a network service. So only the CloudTrail, it can only collect all the logs which are triggering every second by AWS account. So this is the right answer. Here is the description. So CloudTrail is a service that enable governance, compliance, operational auditing and risk adding of your AWS account. With CloudTrail, you can log continuously monitoring and retain account activity related to action across your AWS infrastructure. And CloudTrail provides event history of your AWS account activity, including action taken through the AWS Management Console, AWS SDK, command line tools, and other AWS services. So using CloudTrail, we can get all the details and what are the uses of the CloudTrail. So CloudTrail also provides the visibility into user activity. CloudTrail records important information about each other. Each actions include who made the request, the services used, the action performed, parameters for the action, and the response element returned by the AWS service. And this information help you to track changes made to your AWS resources and troubleshoot operational issue. Apart from that, all below 3 resources are wrong. Okay, third question. Question number 3. A solution architect need to deploy a mobile application that can collect votes for a popular singing corporation. Millions of users from around the world will submit votes using their mobile phone. These votes must be collected and stored in highly scalable and highly available data store, which will be query for real-time ranking. Okay, which of the following combine of the service should be the architecture used to meet this requirement? Okay, so we have to create a real-time voting system. Okay, so for this, the first option is Amazon Aurora and Amazon Cognito. Second option, Amazon DynamoDB and AWS AppSync. Third option, Amazon RDS Relational Database Service and Amazon MQ Message Queue. Fourth option is Amazon RDS and Mobile Hub. So the option is given here is Amazon DynamoDB and AppSync, and the explanation is when the word durability pops out, the first service that should come to your mind is Amazon S3. Since the service is not available in this answer option, we can look at the other data store available, which is Amazon DynamoDB. Okay, DynamoDB is a NoSQL database, and DynamoDB is durable, scalable, and highly available data store which can be used for real-time tabulation. You can also use AppSync with DynamoDB to make it easy for you to build collaborative app that keeps shared data update in real time. You just specify the data for your app with a simple code statement, and AWS AppSync manage everything need to keep the app data update in real time. This will allow your app to access the data in Amazon DynamoDB, trigger Lambda function, or run Amazon Elasticsearch query and combine data from those services to provide the exact data you need for your app. Okay, and Redshift and Mobile Hub, it is incorrect because Redshift is mainly used for data warehouse for online analytic processing. Also, this service can be used for this scenario, replace of DynamoDB, but it is still top choice to keep its better durability and scalability. And relational database and message queue and Aurora and Amazon Cognito. Those choices are also wrong because as per this scenario, DynamoDB is much more suitable for the simple mobile application that do not have complicated data relationship compared with the enterprise web application. It is stated in the scenario that mobile app will be used from around the world, which is why you need a data store service which can be supported globally. It would be managed overhead to implement multi-region deployment for your RDS and Aurora database instances compared to using the global table feature for DynamoDB. So this feature is highly useful to global table feature for DynamoDB. So as our RDS database will and Aurora, it will be some region specific, and we cannot use it for our global service. For it give a high latency, but the DynamoDB, it has a features and global table features. So the DynamoDB tables will be accessible from globally and with a low latency, and that table is replicated to all the regions. Okay, question number 4. An architecture is managing a data analytics application which exclusively use Amazon S3 and its data storage. For the past few weeks, the application worked as expected until a new changes was implemented to increase the rate at which the application update its data. There have been reported that outdated data intermittently appears when the application accesses object from S3 bucket. The development team investigated that the application logic and did not find any issue. Which of the following is the most likely causes of this issue? And the first option is the data analytics application is designed to fetch part of an object from the S3 bucket using a range header. The data analytics and second option, the data analytics application is designed to fetch object from the S3 bucket using parallel request. The data analytics application is designed to use automatic update across the object key. The fourth option is the data analytics application is designed to update its data with object locking mechanism. So the explanation is Amazon S3 provide read after write consistency for puts of new object in your S3 bucket in all region with one caveat. If you make a head or get request to the key name to find if the object exists before creating the object, Amazon S3 provide eventually consistency for read after writing. Amazon S3 offers eventual consistency for the put and delete in all region. So updating to a single key are atomic. For example, if you put to an existing key and subsequent read might return old data or update the data, but it will never return corrupted or partial data. This usually happens if your application is using parallel requests on the same object. Amazon S3 achieves high availability by replacing data across multiple servers within Amazon Data Center. If a put request is successful, your data is safely stored. However, information about the changes must be replicated across Amazon S3, which can take some time, and so you might observe the following behavior. A process writes a new object to Amazon S3 and immediately lists key with its bucket. Until the changes is fully propagated, the object might not appear in its list because it is read after write logic is using read after write consistency, and for writing and a process replacing an existing object and immediately attempting to read it until the change is fully propagated, Amazon S3 might return the prior data, because for put and delete it is eventual consistency is taken care, because when we are replacing, then it is eventual consistency is using, and for write or new object creation, it is read after write consistency is using method is using. A process delete an existing object and immediately attempt to read it until the deletion is fully propagated. Amazon S3 might return the deleted data. It is same as the put and delete are eventual consistency override. That's why it can show. And the Amazon S3 supports parallel request, means you can scale your S3 performance by factor of your compute cluster without making any customization to your application. Amazon S3 does not currently support object locking. If two puts requests are simultaneously made to the same key, the request with the latest timestamp wins. If this is an issue, you will need to build an object locking mechanism in your application. Update a key based. There is no way to make atomic update across the key. For example, you cannot make the update of one key depending on the update of the another key unless you're designing the functionality in your application. Okay. Fifth question is, a solution architect is working for a financial company. The manager wants to have the ability to automatically transfer obsolete data from their S3 bucket to a low-cost storage system, AWS. Which would be the best solution that architect can provide to them? So use an EC2 instance. First option is use an EC2 instance and a scheduled job to transfer the obsolete data from their S3 location to Amazon S3 Glacier. Second option, use of Amazon SQS. Third option, Amazon Cloud Endure migration. Fourth option, use the lifecycle policy in S3 to move obsolete data to Glacier. Okay, so in this scenario, only they need to be transfer the S3 obsolete data to another low-cost storage system. This may be S3 Glacier. So for that, we generally use the lifecycle policy of S3. In lifecycle policy, you can use the lifecycle policy in S3 to automatically move the obsolete data to Glacier. Lifecycle configuration is Amazon S3 enabled you to specify the lifecycle management of objects in a bucket. The configuration is a set of one or more rules where each rules define an action for Amazon S3 to apply a group of objects. So these actions can be classified for as follow: transition action, another one is expiration action. In transition action, you define when objects transition to another stage of storage class. For example, you may choose to transit object to standard I or for infrequent access storage class for 30 days after creation, or achieve object to glacier storage class 1 after 1 year creation. And for expiration action, in which you specify when the object expire, the Amazon S3 delete the expired object on your behalf. It will delete the object when we tag the expiration. So we can use the transition action in lifecycle policy. It will transfer between the storage class like S3 standard storage to S3 standard infrequent access or S3 glacier, and we can specify the expiration action to delete the object after a specific time. Okay, next question. A solution architect is working for a large IT consulting firm. One of the client is launching a file sharing web app in AWS, which required a durable storage service for hosting their static content such as PDF, Word document, high resolution images, and many other. Which type of storage service should the architect use to meet the requirement? Okay, so options are: first option Amazon EC2 Instance Store, Amazon EBS Volume, Amazon S3, and Amazon RDS Instance. So first option ECS Instance Store is instance store for the EC2 instance. It is not to use globally, means durable storage for hosting. And EBS volume is also similar as instance store. It can attach with the EC2 instance. So only the EC2 instance we cannot use to download or upload files. File sharing application. For that we have to install other application there. The relevant answer is S3. We can upload our files to S3 and we can use it to as a file sharing web application. The scenario required a durable storage for static content. So S3 is highly durable and suitable for storage of static content. The seventh question is: a company is hosting EC2 instances that are on non-production environment and processing non-priority batch load, which can be interrupted at any time. What is the best instance purchasing option which can be applied to your EC2 instance in this scenario? So the company hosting EC2 instance that required non-production environment and processing is not in priority and batch load, which can be interrupted at any time. So we can use, to reduce cost, spot instance we can use, because spot instance is spare compute capacity in the AWS cloud available to you at step discount on compute compared to on-demand price. It can be interrupted by AWS EC2 with 2 minutes of notice when the EC2 need the capacity back. So here is the diagram. As per the spot instance, you can create a spot instance request that include the number of instances, the instance type, the availability zone, and the maximum price that you are willing to pay per instance hour. If your maximum price exceeded then current spot price, the Amazon EC2 fulfill your request immediately if the capacity is available. Otherwise, Amazon EC2 wait until your request can be fulfilled or until you cancel that request. Okay. So the next question. A company has an on-demand EC2 instance located in a subnet in AWS that hosted a web application. This security group attached to this EC2 instance has a following inbound rules. So this is the inbound rules. The route table attached to VPC shown below. You can establish an SSH connection into EC2 instance from the internet. However, you are not able to connect to the web service using Chrome browser. Yes, and which of the below step will resolve the issue? In the route table, add this new route entirely local. In security group, add inbound rule HTTP. Security group for inbound HTTP rule. In security group for SSH rules. In route table, add the new route entry 0000 for internet gateway. But the requirement is they are not able to access the web server from Chrome browser. So because in our inbound rule we only have the SSH connection allowed from outside world, we are not allowing the currently the port 80 connection or HTTP connection. So we need to add one HTTP protocol for inbound rule. For that, this would be the answer. In the security group, add an inbound HTTP rule. Okay. So this will be the final view. HTTP or HTTPS for TCP protocol, port number 80 and 443 is allow for enter the internet. Okay. Next question. New online banking platform has been redesigned to have a microservice architecture in which complex applications are decomposed into small independent services. The new platform is using Docker considering that application containers are optimal for running small decoupled services. The new solution should remove the need to provision and manage the servers, let you specify and pay for resource per application, and improve security through the application isolated by the design. Which of the following is the most suitable service to use the migrate this new platform to AWS? So our application is microservice and Docker microservice application, and it should remove the need of provision and manage the services. So the options are Fargate, EKS, EBS and EFS. So the EFS and EBS is not applicable because these are not the computing service, these are the storage service. We can be differentiate between Fargate and EKS, but we are not using EKS in this scenario because EKS has some maintenance and provisioning or configuration or management is required for EKS, but Fargate is absolutely automatic, and it no need any provisioning and managed the service is required. For EKS, the managing the EKS service is mandatory to get better result. So we cannot choose the EKS, though EKS is a containerized application. We can use EKS to run the Docker. Same thing receiving here as it is. The Fargate is serverless compute engine for container that works with both the Elastic Container Service and the Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service. EKS. Fargate make it easy for you to focus on building your application. Fargate removes the need to provision and manage servers. Let you specify and pay for resource as per application and improve the security through the application isolated by design. Fargate allocate the right amount of computing, eliminating the need to choose instance and scale cluster capacity. You only pay for the resource required to run your container, so there is no over provisioning and paying for additional servers. Fargate run each task or pods in its own kernel provision that take task and pods their own isolated computers environment. This enable your application to have workload isolated and improve the security by design. This is why customers such as Accenture and many other customers are using Fargate for their mission critical application. And for EKS, we are not using EKS because it is more suitable to run the Kubernetes management infrastructure and not Docker. It does not remove the need to provision and manage service, not let you specify and pay for resource per application, unlike Fargate, right? Okay. Question number 10. An insurance firm has an application that processed thousands of customer data stored in Amazon MySQL database. With multi-AZ deployment configuration for high available in case of downtime. For the past few days, you notice an increasing trend of read and write operation, which is increasing the latency of your query to your database. You are planning to use standby database instance to balance the read and write operation from your primary instance. When running your primary Amazon RDS instances as a multi-AZ deployment, can you use the standby instance for read and write operation? The specific answer is no. We cannot use the standby instance for read or write operation. Multi-AZ deployment for MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, and PostgreSQL engine utilize the synchronized physical replication to keep data on your standby up to date with the primary. Multi-AZ deployment for the SQL Server engine use synchronous logical replication to achieve the same result, employing SQL Service Notice mirroring technology. Both the application approaches safeguard your data in the event of DB instance failure or loss of availability zone. If a storage volume of your primary instance fails, in a multi-AZ deployment, Amazon RDS automatically initiates a failover to the up-to-date standby. Compare this to single AZ deployment. In case of single AZ database failure, a user initiate a point-in-time restore operation will be required. This operation can take several hours to complete, and any data update to this occurrence after the latest restorable time, this won't be available. the rest of the options are incorrect, because regardless of the database engine, you cannot use a standby database for read and write operation. Thank you for watching.